Level 1. The Civilian. You are 18 years old. You are sitting in the back of a government van at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday in August, rolling through downtown Beaufort, South Carolina, toward a bridge. There are 11 other recruits in the van. Nobody is talking. The van smells like fast food and anxiety. One kid from Memphis has been asleep since Atlanta. You do not understand how he is asleep. You have been awake for 22 hours. You signed the contract 6 weeks ago at a recruiting station in a strip mall in your hometown. The recruiter was a staff sergeant who had been to Fallujah and had the specific economy of expression of someone who had already said everything once and did not feel the need to say it again. He asked if you had questions. You asked what boot camp was actually like. He said, "It is 12 weeks of not knowing what comes next. You learn how to handle that. You can handle anything." You have been thinking about that sentence for 6 weeks. The van crosses the bridge onto Parris Island. You can see nothing in the dark. Then you see the lights of the receiving barracks, and a drill instructor standing in those lights with his cover pulled low over his eyes, and the van stops, and he opens the door, and everything that happened before this moment immediately becomes irrelevant. Level 2. The Recruit. Parris Island, South Carolina. 13 weeks. The first thing that happens is the yellow footprints. There are yellow footprints painted on the pavement in front of the receiving barracks. You stand on them with 52 other recruits at 3:15 a.m., and a drill instructor stands in front of you and begins speaking at a volume and velocity that your brain processes as a single continuous event, rather than individual words. You are no longer a person with a name in any practical sense. You are a recruit. You respond to the DI's commands before you understand them. This is the point. Comprehension is not the first thing they are building. Compliance is. Compliance with people you trust. Trust is built through consistency. Consistency was built through 13 weeks of the same standard applied to everybody in the same building without exception. In week 1, your head is shaved in 60 seconds by a barber who has had this same expression for 11 years. You do not miss your hair. You miss the version of yourself that had it. Week 3. The Confidence Course. A series of platforms, ropes, and suspended logs 50 feet above the ground. You are not afraid of heights. You discover this is not the relevant information. The relevant information is whether you can perform a specific physical task while exhausted, at height, with a drill instructor directly behind you. The answer, it turns out, is yes. Week 6. The Rifle Range at Edson Range. 10 days of marksmanship training. Your primary marksmanship instructor is a lance corporal from Idaho, who has a gift for explaining ballistics in terms that make spatial and geometric sense. You qualify as a marksman on your first attempt. By the end of week 7, you are shooting expert. You have never held a rifle before this summer. Week 11. The Crucible. 54 hours. 45 miles of movement. 36 problem-solving stations. 48 hours without sleep. You carry 45 pounds of gear and your rifle and the weight of what happens to everyone around you. Because in the Crucible, you are not one person. You are one unit of a platoon, and the platoon either completes or fails as one body. At hour 40, a recruit in the fire team next to yours sits down and says she cannot continue. Not will not. Cannot. There is a difference. You have been trained to know the difference. You sit next to her. You do not pull her up. You ask her one question. Is this the farthest you've ever been? She says yes. You say. Then you don't know yet what comes after this. She looks at you. Something shifts in her expression. She stands up. The platoon moves. You complete the Crucible at dawn. The drill instructor, the same man who opened the van door 11 weeks ago, stands in front of your platoon at first light and pins the eagle, globe, and anchor to each recruit's chest. You are a United States Marine. This title was earned. It Level 3. The Lance. Corporal. School of Infantry. Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Every Marine, regardless of what job they will eventually hold, goes through the School of Infantry after boot camp. If you are going to a combat MOS, an infantry or combat support role, you attend the Infantry Training Battalion. If you are going to a non-combat MOS, you attend Marine Combat Training. Either way, you spend the next 59 days learning that the title you earned on Parris Island was a beginning, not an end. You are infantry, MOS 0311, Rifleman. ITB is the follow-on training that turns recruits into infantrymen, small unit tactics, patrolling, room clearing, land navigation. You learn to read terrain the way a language, in a terrain you did not grow up in. You learn to navigate at night with a compass and a map and nothing else. You learn to be lost and continue moving anyway. This turns out to be a skill with applications beyond the woods. You receive AF orders to the 1st Battalion, 5th Marines at Camp Pendleton, California. You are 19 years old. You have been a Marine for 4 months. You are a private first class, E2, making $23,316 per year. You live in the barracks. The barracks are not comfortable. They are not meant to be comfortable. They are meant to be temporary. Everything in your life right now is temporary in the way that permanent things start. Your first deployment orders arrive 6 months after you reach the fleet. You are going to Afghanistan. You do not sleep well the night the orders arrive. Not from fear, exactly. From something adjacent to fear that does not have a name. The recognition that the training is over and the thing the training was preparing you for has now arrived. You call your mother. She asks if you are okay. You say yes. She knows you well enough not to believe you and well enough not to say so. She says she loves you. You say it back. You hang up and you clean your rifle in the barracks room because cleaning your rifle is a thing you can control, and right now, control is the most valuable resource you have. Level 4. The Corps General. Helmand Province. You have been a corporal for 4 months when your platoon takes contact in a grape field outside Sangin. You are not going to describe this in detail because it does not belong in detail. What it belongs to is the category of things that are now permanently part of your architecture, like a room in a house that you never quite close the door on. It is there. You move through the rest of the house. Sometimes the door swings. What you will say is this: the training worked. The body did what it was taught to do. The mind held what it was trained to hold. The Marine next to you was wounded, and you did what you were trained to do, and he lived. His name is Marcus. He is from Beaufort, South Carolina, the same county where you first stood on yellow footprints. And when he came home, he went to work at his family's hardware store, and he texts you on your birthday every year without fail. You serve 4 years. You deploy twice. You are 22 years old, and you have seen things that most 22-year-olds in America have not seen and will not see. And you have mixed feelings about this that you have not yet fully sorted. You re-enlist. You are not sure why, exactly, in the way that you are not sure why you breathe. It is simply the thing that makes sense. The civilian world feels like a country you visited once as a child and cannot quite navigate now. The Corps is where the ground is solid. Level 5. The Sergeant. Sergeant. E5. You are 24 years old. You have a fire team of 4 Marines, and you are responsible for them in the specific way that the word responsibility meant something abstract before the Corps, and means something concrete now. Your youngest Marine is 18. He arrived from boot camp 3 weeks ago. He is from Knoxville, Tennessee, and he has the specific quality of someone who has been very sheltered and is now very far from shelter and is not yet sure how he feels about this. You watch him. You do not hover. You give him tasks that are slightly past his current comfort zone, and you watch him figure out how to complete them. This is the work inside the work. The mission is what everyone can see. The building is what the Corps actually runs on. You are selected for the Scout Sniper Basic Course. 8 weeks at Quantico, one of the hardest military training courses in the United States, with an attrition rate that would embarrass most civilian hiring processes. The stalking exercises. You spend 48 hours in a field, motionless under a ghillie suit, moving by inches per hour toward a position from which you will take a shot that 2 instructors with binoculars will score. If they see you before you fire, you fail the stalk. You fail 2 stalks before you pass. Each failure is a lesson. Each lesson costs you the thing you have least of, which is time. You graduate. The qualification round is at 1,000 yards. You put the round into the target. You drive back to Camp Pendleton. Your team is waiting. The youngest one, the kid from Knoxville, has gotten noticeably better in 8 weeks. He stands differently. Not taller, differently. like someone who has begun to understand what they are. You recognize it. You remember when it happened to you. Level 6, the staff, sergeant, gunnery sergeant, E7. You are 32 years old, and you have been in the Corps for 14 years, and you know things about this institution that cannot be taught. You are now a platoon sergeant, 43 Marines. You are responsible for their training, their welfare, their performance, and the part of their lives that the Corps touches, which is, in practice, most of their lives. The thing nobody tells you about senior enlisted leadership is how much of it happens in hallways, not in formal settings. In hallways, at the end of the day, when a young corporal catches you between buildings and says something is wrong but doesn't know how to say what it is. In parking lots at 2300, when a lance corporal calls your cell because the thing that's been building has finally arrived and he doesn't know who else to call. You take the calls. Everyone. This is not optional. This is the job. A Marine in your platoon is struggling. He has been back from his 3rd deployment for 7 months, and he is not coming back all the way. You recognize the signs because you have seen them before, and because you carried some of them yourself for 2 years after Helmand and did not have a staff sergeant who knew what to look for. You sit with him. You tell him what you know. You connect him with the people who can help in ways you cannot. He resists this. You do not argue. You wait. He comes back. 6 months later, he extends his contract. He tells you the reason in approximately 8 words. It is enough. You are selected for gunnery sergeant. You pin the chevrons. The Marines in your platoon call you Gunny now. This single syllable contains a history that goes back to 1775. You do not let yourself think about this too much. It would make it impossible to be irascible in the correct proportions, which is part of the job. Level 7. The first sergeant. First sergeant, E8. You are 38 years old. You are the senior enlisted advisor to a company commander who is 12 years younger than you. He has an excellent education and good instincts, and he is smart enough to understand that the 12 years matter. Your relationship with the CO is the most important professional relationship you have had in 20 years of service. It works because you have established, in the first 2 weeks, what your respective lanes are. He makes the tactical decisions. You are the institutional conscience. When he is about to do something that is technically correct and institutionally wrong, you tell him. He listens, not always, often enough. The company has 180 Marines. You know every name. You know which ones are heading somewhere they shouldn't be heading before they know it themselves. You know which ones are capable of things they don't yet believe about themselves. At 38, you are old for the job in the way that the Corps means when it uses the word old. Your body has logged 20 years of the specific abuse that infantry service involves. Your knees tell you things your commanding officer does not need to know. You run every morning anyway. Not for anyone's inspection. For the same reason, you have always run. Because stopping would be the beginning of a different thing. Your daughter visits the base. She is 12. She watches the Marines with the expression of someone encountering a world she did not know existed. She watches you, specifically, among them, the way you move, the way the Marines make space when you walk toward them without seeming to move. She asks you on the drive home, do they respect you because you're their boss, or for a different reason? You think about this for a mile. You say, I hope the second one. It matters that it's the second one. She nods. She writes it down in the notebook she keeps. Level 8, the Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps. There is only ever one. You are the senior enlisted Marine in the entire United States Marine Corps. You represent 180,000 enlisted Marines to the Commandant. You are the institutional memory, the standard, and the voice of every person in the Corps who does not have a seat at the table where the large decisions are made. You travel 220 days per year. You sit across from generals and senators. And you tell them what is true in the Corps with the specific authority of someone who has been there for every level of it. You do not soften the truth. The Marines you represent cannot afford a sergeant major who softens the truth. A reporter asks you, in a formal interview, what you want your legacy to be. You say, I want the Marine who joins the day after I leave to have a corps that is slightly better because I was here. I am not sure how you measure that. I measure it by the people, not the programs. The programs change. The people carry it. He writes this down. The interview runs in a military journal. You receive 200 emails. You read everyone. Level 9. The Marine. You retire at 30 years. The ceremony is at Quantico. The commandant presents your flag. A band plays. There are speeches. You listen to the speeches the way you have learned to listen to most things. For the true part inside the formal language. The true part is this. You came to Parris Island at 18 with 52 other recruits at 3 a.m. and yellow footprints and a drill instructor who opened a van door. And you leave 30 years later having been responsible, at various points, for the welfare and performance and lives of thousands of Marines. And the institution you leave is not the same institution you entered, and you are not the same person who entered it. This is the only thing that was ever promised. The transformation. The Corps does not promise comfort or safety or proximity to your family. It promises transformation, and it delivers. You drive home alone because your wife is already there with the food and the family and the specific organized chaos of the people who built a life around an absence and decided the person who came home was worth the building. You pull into the driveway. You sit in the truck. Somewhere right now, a government van is crossing a bridge in the dark onto Parris Island. In the back, 11 recruits sit in silence. One of them, from somewhere in America, is looking out the window at the lights of the receiving barracks. He sees the drill instructor standing in those lights. The van stops. The door opens. Everything that happened before this moment is about to become irrelevant. He has no idea what he is walking into. He just knows he wants in. He will find out what that means. They always find out. The cycle continues.